From behind the scenes, she built a world empire. In the nearly 50 years it took for Marjorie Rieu to become famous, Marjorie Rieu worked behind the scenes. His wife, his writer, his boss, and his toughest guardian. They took over the classical world as a group. Now though she's leaving, everything changed after André's health took a terrible turn. Something broke behind the glitz. André is celebrating his 75th birthday with everyone else, while Marjorie walks away slowly. Where is the woman who kept everything together? In 2012 everything began to fall apart. André Rieu, who was known as the King of the Waltz, wasn't going to slow down when he was at the top of his game. He was flying between countries with his Jan Strauss Orchestra, filling arenas to capacity, and making it through concerts, TV specials, and interviews with international media without missing a beat. He seemed impossible to reach for decades. He was able to work even when he was jet-lagged or sick, but in July 2010 something broke. When André woke up at 3 a.m., he was on vacation in Belgium with his wife Marjorie, and everything around him was moving. In a real sense, not figuratively. The walls and roof were leaning to one side. He thought the floor had given way under him. He couldn't stand because he was shaking and soaked in sweat. He brushed it off at first. It could have been just being tired. It had been a busy week for him with studio recordings, Spanish classes, and last-minute tour preparations. He even thought that being happy and busy could keep you from getting sick. He couldn't smile through this though. It was still making me feel dizzy in the morning. Things got worse instead. He was identified with vestibular neuritis, a virus that affects the inner ear and causes problems with the vestibular nerve. That nerve is in charge of balance. When it's inflamed, the brain gets mixed up messages that make it very dizzy, disoriented, and sick to your stomach when you're moving. It was terrible for André. He was feeling more than just a little dizzy. He had trouble walking straight. He wasn't able to practice. Even holding his fiddle made him feel like the room was shaking. This is where things got tough. It was set for the following week to be a show in Amsterdam. Not a small show. 60,000 people were waiting for the show to be sold out. That being said, there was no miraculous return this time. Rest was all his doctor told him to do. At that point things began to go badly. Not just for André but also for Marjorie. Marjorie Rieu is more than just his wife. She's the quiet force that makes him do everything. She teaches languages for a living, and is also a skilled composer. Tour's been her husband since 1975. That's more than 40 years together. It has to be artistic, practical, and emotional as well as romantic. Marjorie runs the empire's business while André goes on trips around the world. She manages, writes, and keeps his time and energy safe. But there wasn't a business plan for this in 2010. André had to call off his trip to Australia. Then he put off his shows in the UK. These weren't small shows in the area. There were hundreds of jobs at these big outdoor events. Lighting workers, orchestra members, stage managers, and teams that move things around. 120 people depended on him to pay their bills. His monthly costs are more than £825,000, and that's before he adds his own income. There was more going on than just his own problems when he got sick. It was a real storm in the economy, and Marjorie was right in the middle of it. From their house in Missy, which was built in the 1400s and was a dream home for André since he was a child. Things were kept together by Marjorie. She made sure the business kept going. She was in charge of the messaging. She also made sure that André kept his mind on getting better, even when he wanted to push through his illness. He tried, that's why. He didn't give up. He asked for medicine, tried to walk, and practiced, but nothing worked. His body said no. Marjorie was the one who told him. It wasn't a test of strength, but in order to stay alive. What's the joke? André had thought for years that he couldn't get burned out. He was so sure that his mind could control his body, and that only being positive could keep him from falling apart. But there are limits to even the most passionate performance. He hit his this time. He couldn't go on tour for 3 months in a row. He had a hard time getting up. He was sorry for letting everyone down. He was so tired that he couldn't even play with his grandkids. At one point he said that the way he was always sweating was like going through the menopause. He made fun of it, but it was clear what was really going on. It wasn't just an ear infection. It woke me up. The doctors did tests. He had a brain scan to make sure there wasn't a growth there. Even though the scans were good, the recovery was very hard. There were no magic pills or treatments, just retraining and balance, physical therapy, and a set of boring but necessary routines. Moving his eyes up and down and side to side while standing on one leg and making figure-8 shapes with his feet. 3 times a day for 30 minutes each time. It hurt a lot, but it worked slowly. But even though Andre's body started to get better, the mental pain didn't go away. Everything was tinged with the fear of relapsing. About 5% of people who have vestibular neuritis will get it again. And one of the main causes is stress. All of Andre's plans had to be rethought, including his life itself. That's where Marjorie came back in. She made 2 lists with him. On one list was everything he loved about his job, which was making music, going to shows and recording albums. The other was everything that made him tired. Meetings, business talks, speaking appointments, events for the press, and running the business. It was a lot longer on the second list. They cut it together. They took his calendar away. They changed what he cared about. They agreed that he would only work on music from now on, and Marjorie would keep him away from everything else. That choice wasn't just based on workload. It was about getting through. Marjorie knew that Andre wasn't as strong as he seemed on stage. She saw him at his weakest, sweating from a fever, losing his balance, and feeling bad about himself as he walked to the bathroom. She stood next to him and made sure no one saw how close it was to breaking him. It was never about being flashy when they worked together. Marjorie rarely goes with him to music or other public events. Indeed, she had said before that she didn't want to be known for being Andre Rieu's wife. She is unique, has her own work, and thinks for herself. In times like these, though, you can see how strong they really are. They raised 2 boys together. They now have 5 grandkids. They live in the castle where Andre learned to play the piano when he was younger. Marjorie has always kept one foot on the ground, even when the world seemed to be spinning. She has done this through all the fame, chaos, music, and attention. He was back on stage by 2013. He got better faster than the doctors thought he would. He became more stable with the help of the eye exercises, therapy, and changes to his lifestyle. But the fear never really went away. And Marjorie's part changed. She was no longer just helping out a traveling singer. She was doing everything she could to keep the man she loved from hitting that breaking point again while she watched him do it. Fans don't always know what it takes to keep that dream alive when they see Andre today, dancing, happily, with a 60-person orchestra. They also don't see the woman who helped hold everything together when it began to fall apart. But Marjorie does, because that was just the start. Andre got a new wake-up call in 2017, one that made him think even more about his health, his decisions, and what was most important to him. The stress this time wasn't caused by a virus or a show that had to be cancelled. It came from inside. Andre knew that something had to change for good after his second big health scare in as many years. They are constantly touring, leading a 60-piece orchestra, managing production details, and making sure fans all over the world are happy. It quickly added up. There was a white flag on his body. He paid attention this time. He then brought in extra help in the form of a personal trainer, a new diet plan, and a new schedule that focused on getting stronger, having more stamina, and getting a lot of rest. This wasn't a move for show. I had to stay alive. He began working out regularly to make sure he wouldn't fall off the stage and to keep up with the fast pace of his group. His teacher literally changed what he ate, watched how he moved, and helped him get better from the inside out. And it was impossible to ignore the effects. He moved faster, slept better, and felt better. It didn't end there, though. Because of the change in their boss, his orchestra also joined in. Soon the whole Johann Strauss orchestra joined in. There were artists who reserved gym time in hotels, set up Zumba classes, and even signed up for marathons while on tour. Things changed behind the scenes. Being healthy was no longer an aside. It was part of daily life. And if you're asking how a man in his 70s watches shows that start at 8 p.m. to midnight in several different time zones for 5 or 6 days in a row. He needs rest, control and the help of a team that does what he says. From now on, Andre keeps his group small. Inside his violin case are pictures of his family. Before every show, his sons text him pictures of his grandchildren. He doesn't wear his wedding ring on his finger, but on a chain, so it won't fall off on stage. These aren't just habits, they're foundations. Small things that remind you of home can help you stay grounded when you're flying between places and singing your heart out under the stage lights. When we talk about home, that Mastery Castle is more than just a sign of wealth. When the show starts, Marjorie waits there and watches from the sides, away from the cameras. She's powerful even when she's not in the spotlight. She has shaped his every move from behind the scenes for more than 40 years, writing his biography, planning shows, handling logistics, and keeping him focused on what's important. There is still the same spark between them that brought them together in the 1970s. Megan, she taught languages in Nide. She met him at the party for his sister's middle-class sister. They didn't waste any time when they got back in touch years later. They fell quickly, but not everyone agreed. Andre's folks weren't sure if Marjorie would be a good match. Their strict rules didn't go with her flower power spirit. They kept going anyway. Both of them came from homes with rules. They were both taught to work hard. That drive was what they used to build everything else. With the help of Gemma Serpent, Andre joined the Lindbergh Symphony Orchestra in 1978 and played in her club group. Marjorie found out she was pregnant around the same time. They were working hard to get gigs in retirement homes while also taking care of their families and teaching. It would be too mild to say that things were crazy. They didn't stop though. Marjorie helped write the things that were said in between songs. She put together handouts. She worked at event booths to get shows booked. They used to play free concerts in small rooms for a few dozen people, but they were dreaming of going to the theater and going on world tours. The band's big break came from the album Strauss & Company 1994 and the viral hit The Second Waltz. It wasn't luck, it took years of building one brick at a time. Still, things weren't always easy. The 2008 copy of Schönbrunn Palace almost put them out of business. Marjorie couldn't sleep at night because he saw the money leave his account faster than it came in. She stayed cool, thought things through, and was careful. In the end, their son Pierre joined the business and added more business sense to balance out Andre's love of art. In spite of her fame, she stays away from it. No new pictures or interviews with the press unless it's necessary. She goes with her maiden name to avoid being found out. That is not fear, it is purpose. Every time Andre goes on tour, he opens up to more people, but Marjorie stays out of the spotlight. This balance lets both of them breathe. When he's at home, Andre moves less quickly. He carefully plans and cooks dinner, which is always healthy. The orangery is their best place to be alone and think. This indoor garden was created by Andre and has rare plants, bright butterflies, and koi fish that float under paintings in the style of Tuscany. It's where he goes to relax after a busy trip. It's also where they start over before the next big journey. What did Andre do to make his drive so strong? Who told him to put everything on his dream, even though the chances were against him? Andre Rieu's Jewish father-in-law may have been the real key to his success and changed the way he thought. That is the answer. Edgar Coleman wasn't well known. He didn't lead the band or stand on stage, but his spirit was in every song Andre played. Edgar lived through the Holocaust. In 1932, his dad ran away from Berlin and went to Maastricht to get away from danger. The rest of the family came 2 years later. During the war, Edgar went into hiding and was looked after by a Dutch girl called Nellie. Nellie later married Edgar and became his wife and Andre's mother-in-law. Nellie took a huge risk. She fought for the Dutch people and helped Jewish families stay safe. A letter from an Israeli family, thanking Andre for saving their grandmother's life, came to him years later. He kept that moment in his mind, not as a story from a long time ago, but as a reminder of the heritage his marriage had given him. Then Edgar's record collection showed up. Andre didn't just get a partner when he married Marjorie in 1975. He went into a different sound world. Edgar's most valuable thing wasn't money or artifacts. It was a group of more than 300 vinyl tracks. Andre learned a new beat, a new language, and a whole new side of music from that collection. Up until that point, Andre had grown up listening to Bach, Beethoven, and Bruckner, who were all great classical musicians. But Edgar's records introduced him to opera, music from the 1920s, and yes, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. For someone who grew up in a very structured musical family, it was like seeing color for the first time. Andre didn't just listen, he took it all in. The first shows by the MRI Salon Orchestra were based on that record collection. The range was changed by it. It set the mood. It even shaped the logo, the vibe, and the way fun and nostalgic it was. It all started with Edgar's taste and Marjorie's early impact. Edgar didn't have a technical effect. It made me feel. He showed Andre how to get in touch with the sound's heart. And even after decades, that effect is still being felt. Almost every time Andre plays a show, he plays a version of Hava Nagila, which is the famous klezmer piece. He played it in 2010, and it has over 14 million views on YouTube, making it one of the most watched classical music movies online. There's no chance in that. It's an honor to Edgar, to history, and to the strong people who got back up after losing everything. Andre is still proud to carry that weight. The crowd goes crazy when he plays in Israel. Flags fly and fans roar, and he responds with local songs like Jerusalem of Gold, making his world tour more culturally rich. He has played in Tel Aviv every year since 2018, and each show has been more like a get-together than a show. Edgar's story continues to guide him behind the scenes. He knows where the family is from. He knows how almost everything ended before it even started. In fact, that's why he enjoys life with music. The meaning is easy to understand. Don't stop dancing. Remember to dream. Do not stop. Andre kept moving even when there was lockdown, and stages were empty, and shows were cancelled. He made cakes for people in his neighborhood. He put together video clips from past shows to make Magical Mastery, a special virtual event. The event was streamed from December 19th to January 3rd, so fans all over the world could feel the emotion, energy, and memories from their own homes. He didn't slow down, he even went even further. By 2025, he will be 75 years old, and to celebrate, The Dream Continues will be shown all over the world. This isn't just a list of his best songs, it's a front row seat to a history. Andre puts together a trip through his favorite acts from around the world, from New York to Vienna, and from Bahrain to Sydney. One of the best parts was a big version of Music of the Night, from The Phantom of the Opera. In another, he sings a moving duet with his brother Robert, in which they both remember happy times as kids while singing Pai Zu. Andre opens up in the numbers, sharing memories, stories, and lessons learned from a life full of love and hard work. Emma is the next one. Andre and the Johann Strauss Orchestra have taken her all over the world since 2024. She's been to many places, like Mexico, Chile, Bahrain, Colombia, and more. Something important is happening, because she is on stage. Andre's story keeps getting longer. He has no plans to slow down. He's adding new voices and faces, and working with others to keep the practice alive. A boy from MRI, who started out with a used violin, goes on to become one of the best-selling classical acts in the world. When you think about how big it all is, you can see the whole picture. A man who grew up following strict rules, a young couple putting together shows in nursing homes on the cheap, a dream fed by vinyl music and getting through the war, a career that spans countries, generations, and types of music. That quiet force is at the heart of everything. The one who never stood in the sun but made sure it was always shining. The heart of the music was shaped by Edgar Cohen, and Marjorie carried it on, incorporating her father's memory into every choice, arrangement, and tour. It's not because Marjorie is done when she steps back today and says goodbye to the lights, the tour buses, and the long nights backstage.
It's because she did what she needed to do. That's her who built what everyone else sees in Andre. She held on to the dream when it was just a spark. Now Marjorie watches from a quiet spot as Andre plays to packed houses in Sydney, Vienna, and Tel Aviv. He knows that every note tells their story. From war-torn Berlin to stadiums full of people on 5 countries, this journey didn't start with fame. It started with love, music, strength and support that doesn't expect anything in return. Now where does the music go next? That is the last question. And now that Andre's 75th birthday is over, Emma is moving up in the orchestra, and the group is still touring the world, the answer is clear. The waltz keeps going,